Live from Studio 1396, Columbus, Ohio. I'm AJ England, and this is Late Lap. Good evening, race fans, speed freaks, and anyone who's ever looked at rush hour traffic and thought I could do this faster, much faster. Welcome back to the Late Lap. I trust your Memorial Day weekend was filled with the appropriate levels of solemn remembrance, questionable food combinations, and the distinct aroma of sunscreen mixed with charcoal. And as you dragged yourself back to reality this week, perhaps with a slight burger-induced fog, we were here, eagerly awaiting the chance to dissect one of the most significant performances we've seen in years. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this past Sunday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it wasn't just another race. It was a statement. It was a coronation. It was the day. It was the day Alex Palou, a man we've affectionately and accurately, as it turned out, dubbed King Palou all season, decided to add the most coveted jewel in all of motorsport to his already glittering crown. Now, we've seen Palou dominate. We've seen him turn road courses into his personal art studios, painting masterpieces of speed and precision. We've seen him navigate treacherous street circuits with the calm of a seasoned fighter pilot. But the oval, that was the question mark. That was the one arena where the whispers persisted. Could he conquer the high banks? Could he master the relentless, unforgiving dance of speed and strategy that is oval racing? He didn't just answer the question, he slammed the door on it, bolted it shut, and threw away the key. His first ever oval victory. And where does he choose to break his duck? Not at some quiet, unassuming short track, no. He goes straight for the grandest, most hallowed, and intimidating cathedral of speed on Earth, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and wins the 109th Indianapolis 500. It's like deciding to learn how to swim by entering the Olympics. Imagine joining the 100-meter freestyle against Phelps. The sheer, unadulterated audacity is breathtaking. He looked at the Mount Everest of oval racing and just climbed it on his very, first serious attempt. And don't let anyone tell you this was a fluke, or a lucky break, or some kind of cosmic alignment of the racing gods. This was surgical. It was dominant. This was his 5th win in the last 6 NTT IndyCar Series races. 5 for 6. 5 for 6. That's a hot streak that not many will ever see again. I would actually go so far as to say it's not even a hot streak. It's a reign of terror for the rest of the field. He now commands a 115-point lead in the championship. To put that into perspective, that's like starting a marathon 2 miles ahead of everyone else. The other drivers aren't just racing for second anymore, they're racing in a different zip code. But the final result, as glorious as it is for Palou and the number 10 DHL Chip Ganassi Racing Honda, barely scratches the surface of the beautiful, chaotic, and utterly compelling drama that unfolded over 200 laps. The first half of this race was pure, unadulterated bedlam. It was less the greatest spectacle in racing and more like getting a pack of toddlers loose in a go-kart emporium. We saw 6 of the race's 7 caution periods before lap 108. It was a demolition derby disguised as a motor race. Think about the story headlines that got shredded. Joseph Newgarden, titan of the sport, chasing a ghost, the 3rd consecutive Indianapolis 500 victory, a feat so rare, it's spoken in a hushed tone. The Speedway, however, is a fickle mistress. She guards her records of jealousy. A mechanical gremlin struck down Newgarden's chariot, ending his quest for a historic hat trick. That in one long seasoned week of competition penalty ruined his dream. It dissolved in a blaze of glory. But the quiet sigh of failing machinery added to the puzzle. Then there was rookie pole sitter Robert Schwartzman, the Tel Aviv Israel driver. Imagine his pressure. The first time at the Indianapolis 500, and he's leading the most famous field in the race all the way to green flag. He was holding his own, looking like a seasoned pro, until lap 87. He dived into the pit and suddenly his car developed the traction of a greased eel on an ice rink. He slid right through his pit box, a bystander to his own misfortune, and nudged the inside wall. A tiny lap, but enough to end his day. A brutal reminder that the Brickyard demands perfection and punishes even the slightest misstep. And what about the much-hyped double NASCAR champion Kyle Larson, a man who seems capable of winning in anything with wheels, attempted the Herculean task of racing 500 miles in Indianapolis and another 600 in Charlotte on the same day. We'll talk more about that later. It's a feat that speaks to the raw passion and endurance of these athletes. But the Speedway, as we've established, doesn't give a shit about sentiment. Larson got caught up in the incident. His Indy dreams dashed against the unforgiving, safer barrier and one wild downshift. So, while the track was littered with shattered dreams and twisted metal, where was our serene Spaniard? He was playing four-dimensional chess. He was the calm eye in a hurricane of horsepower. His Chip Ganassi racing team, known for their strategic brilliance, made a call that had statisticians and engineers sweating bullets. They brought Palou in for his final stop on lap 168. That left 32 laps to the finish. 32 laps on a single tank of ethanol at Indianapolis is not just pushing the envelope, it's licking it and shipping it all the way to a different galaxy. The tension was palpable. Could he make it? The audacious gamble handed the lead to Marcus Ericsson from Sweden, the man who had his heart broken by Newgarden in last year's race, finishing an agonizing second. For 18 laps, it looked like Ericsson's redemption arc was being written in real time. He was out front, the Borg-Warner Trophy shimmering in his sights. But there was a shadow lurking in his mirror, a rentless yellow and red DHL Honda shadow. It was Palou, King Palou, patient, calculating, and conserving fuel like a miser hoarding gold. He was drafting, stalking, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Everyone in that stadium, all 350,000 souls, felt it coming. Ericsson, deep down, must have felt it too. The air crackled with anticipation. And then, on lap 187, the King made his move. He didn't just pass Ericsson. He executed a clinical takedown. We're talking sneak RKO. He used the low. He slingshotted to the inside of turn one with a move so clean, so decisive, it was almost poetic. It was the final lead change of 22, and it was the one that etched King Palou's name into history. Ericsson, to his credit, hung tough, but the damage was done. He later lamented in a quote that will surely echo in his mind for months, "I should have covered the inside. Of course. Yes, Marcus, that's the cruel clarity of hindsight. That's the ghost of a victory that slipped through your fingers." The race, somewhat fittingly given its chaotic nature, ended under caution as rookie Nolan Siegel found the wall on the final lap. King Palou cruised across the yard of bricks, not with a roar, but with the quiet satisfaction of a mission accomplished. A king surveying his newly conquered domain. He chugged the traditional bottle of milk. "Best milk I ever tasted," he said. And who could argue? It was the taste of victory, of immortality. He becomes the first driver from Spain to have his likeness sculpted onto the Borg-Warner, a permanent resident in the pantheon of racing gods. His team owner, the legendary Chip Ganassi, who now has 6 Indianapolis 500 wins, said, "Make his life. This win will make Palou's life." I would argue Palou was already making quite a life for himself, but this elevates him to a different stratosphere. He's no longer just a road course maestro. He's the complete package, an Indianapolis 500 champion. I would love to know what you all at home thought of the race. Did you tune into Fox and their great broadcast? And it was great. As the NTT IndyCar Series packs up and heads to the streets of Detroit, the rest of the field is left scratching their heads, looking at telemetry, and probably wondering if King Alex Palou is even human. The question is no longer if he can win on any given Sunday. The question now is there anything this man can't do behind the wheel of an NTT IndyCar? Frankly, I'm running out of superlatives. The king from Barcelona has conquered the Brickyard. Long may he reign. Well, folks, we did mention a little bit of what was going on at Indianapolis was that double. And Kyle Larson, the NASCAR champion, one of the most popular and polarizing athletes in all of stock car and dirt car racing, has joined open wheel the last 2 years. And unfortunately, this year was a chapter, being the guest, speaking the gaffes, and fighting the grind. Settle in, grab whatever's left of that Memorial Day barbecue, because we need to talk. We've sung the praises of King Palou, and deservedly so. His performance was regal, but motorsport, like any saga, isn't just about the triumphant heroes. It needs its complex characters, its flawed geniuses, its head-scratching enigmas. And this past Memorial Day weekend, Kyle Larson, a man of immense talent, stepped firmly into the multifaceted spotlight, casting shadows as much as he did shine. And not always for the reasons he, his sponsors, or his legion of fans might have hoped. We're talking, of course, about the much ballyhooed hashtag Hendrick 1100. Or as the history books will now rather unceremoniously record it, the hashtag Hendrick Not Quite 1100. The audacious attempt by NASCAR's own Kyle Larson to conquer two of motorsport's most formidable fortresses in a single sun-up to sundown blitz. The Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. This isn't just a logistical challenge. It's a test of human endurance, a showcase of supreme skill, and a multi-million-dollar gamble that few would even dare to whisper, let alone undertake. But before a single competitive lap was turned, before the roar of 300,000 fans truly hit its crescendo at Indy, we got a rather unfortunate and frankly unnecessary preview of the Larson roller coaster. Point number one, the radio outburst. Let's set the scene. It's Indianapolis. The air is thick with anticipation. The cars are on track for warm-up laps. This is the final systems check. The glorified parade before the green flag drops on the greatest spectacle in racing. Scott McLaughlin, a highly respected IndyCar regular, a former series champion, a guy who knows his way around the Brickyard, has a minor yet crucial incident. It does happen and it's racing. These things occur when you're threading needles at 220 miles an hour or when you're anticipating for your greatest race. Unfortunately, McLaughlin, during warming his tires, crushed with a wall. He didn't get to start the race. But then crackling over the radio for the entire world, every journalist, every fan with a scanner, every IndyCar official to hear, came Kyle Larson's unfiltered, unvarnished assessment of Mr. McLaughlin. "Fucking idiot," he said. "Okay, Kyle, my man, let's have a little chat here. Just us. You are a guest, a very famous, very talented, very well-funded guest, but a guest nonetheless. In the house of IndyCar, the paddock, the teams, the officials, they rolled out the red carpet for you. This was a massive crossover event, a chance to showcase the best of American motorsport. You weren't just representing yourself or Hendrick Motorsports or Arrow McLaren or Chevrolet. In that moment, you were fairly or unfairly the face of NASCAR, stepping into IndyCar's arena. And that is the commentary you chose to offer? About a seasoned veteran of their sport during an on-track warm-up lap. It begs the question, has the man learned absolutely nothing from the previous instances where a hot mic and a moment of frustration led to significant, career-altering trouble? Kyle, the microphone is always hot. It's not your private chat line. It was poor sportsmanship, plain and simple. It lacked grace. It lacked awareness. It was the kind of comment that makes the IndyCar faithful bristle. The insiders roll their eyes and fuels those tired, unhelpful narratives about those arrogant NASCAR guys. It's the polar opposite of the ambassadorial image you'd want to project when you're the focal point of such a high-profile, cross-discipline endeavor. Imagine if an IndyCar driver showed up to the Daytona 500 and started mouthing off about a Cup champion during practice. The uproar would be deafening, and rightly so. And then to slather a thick, unappetizing layer of bitter irony on top of this entirely avoidable gaffe, Larson himself, the author of his critique, didn't even see the checkered flag in the Indianapolis 500. We'll dissect his race in a moment, but the optics are just brutal. Calling a respected competitor an idiot for a practice mishap when your own multi-million-dollar, heavily hyped effort ends with your car being pushed back to the garage? That's a tough look. It's akin to loudly criticizing someone's slightly off-key karaoke performance right before you step up and forget the lyrics to Happy Birthday. Point number 2. A review of Larson's Indy 500 day. So putting aside the unfortunate pre-race audio, how did Kyle Larson's actual day at the Indianapolis 500 unfold? Well, it began, as it so often does in late May in Indiana, with the ominous gray skies and the all-too-familiar patter of rain. A delay, more anticipation, more nerves for a driver attempting something so monumental. When the green flag finally waved, Larson, piloting the number 17 HendrickCars.com entry for Arrow McLaren, fired off 21st starting spot. Not ideal, but certainly not insurmountable for a driver of his prodigious talent. His first significant challenge, however, came not on the high banks, but on the tight confines of pit road. During the team's first trip to pit lane, he stalled the car. Now, for a driver who can make a sprint car dance on a cushion of dirt, stalling an Indy car might seem like a rookie mistake. But those machines are different animals. The clutches are different, the engagement is different, and doing it under the immense pressure of an Indy 500 pit stop with the world watching, that's a unique challenge. It was an uncharacteristic hiccup, and it cost him precious track position. Back under green, Larson began to show why so many were excited about his attempt. He navigated the early race chaos, the incidents that turned the first half into a highlight reel for the AMR safety team, with veteran poise. He was making his way forward, methodically picking off 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, and demonstrating that incredible adaptability that is his hallmark. There were flashes of brilliance, moments where you thought, okay, here he comes. He's figuring it out. The Hendrick 1100 dream was still very much alive. Then, lap 92, following a restart as the field was jockeying for position, Larson's day at the Brickyard came to a sudden, violent, and premature end. His own words, after being checked and released from the infield care center, I got kind of arrow tight behind him, and as I peeked left, the nose grabbed and I spun. For the uninitiated arrow tight, that means that the front of the car loses grip due to turbulent air from the car ahead, making it want to go straight instead of turn. He tried to find the clean air. The car snapped, and that was it. A spin, a brush with the ball, and just like that, the Indy 500 chapter of the Hendrick 1100 was closed. He was credited with a 27th place finish. The disappointment was palpable. For Larson, a born racer who hates to lose in anything. For Mr. Hendrick, a great man who poured immense resources into this effort. For Arrow McLaren, who provided a top-tier car. For fans, both NASCAR and IndyCar, who had bought into the hype and the history of this attempt. It was a stark, brutal reminder that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a cruel mistress. She demands respect. She punishes the slightest miscalculation, regardless of your resume or reputation. He was checked, released, and then began the mad dash to Charlotte, the Indy 500 dream evaporating in his rearview mirror, replaced by the urgent need to refocus for another 600 miles of grueling competition. And that brings me to the third point of his night, the Coca-Cola 600. From bad to worse. If Kyle Larson was hoping that a change of scenery, a different type of race car, and a return to his familiar stomping grounds would bring a change of fortune, well, the racing gods apparently had a different script in mind for his Sunday evening. His Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway wasn't just a struggle. It was, to put it mildly, an unmitigated disaster. He actually seemed poised for a storybook rebound in the early stages. He jumped into his number 5 HendrickCars.com Chevrolet, a machine he knows like the back of his hand, and promptly grabbed the lead. For a fleeting moment, it looked like we might see an angry, motivated Larson put on his clinic. Indy didn't go well. We'll watch this. But then, on just lap 42, he spun unassisted. Just lost it. The kind of mistake that makes you scratch your head again. A driver of his caliber. The Hendrick crew, arguably the best in the business, thrashed on the car, patching it up, trying to keep him in the hunt for what is NASCAR's longest and most grueling race. Their efforts were valiant. They even managed through strategy and sheer grit to get him back on the lead lap, clawing his way up to the lucky dog spot by the end of stage 2. The fight was undeniably there. The determination to salvage something from this incredibly trying day was evident. He was rallying. He was nearing the top 20. Maybe, just maybe, a respectable finish was still on the cards. And then, bam! As if the day hadn't been cruel enough, he was collected in a multi-car wreck that erupted in front of him. He had nowhere to go. This time, the damage was terminal. His night and his incredibly ambitious Memorial Day marathon were definitely over. A 37th place finish in the Coke 600 to go with his 27th in Indy 500. 1,100 miles attempted, significantly, painfully, fewer completed. It was brutal, bruising, soul-crushing day for one of the racing's brightest stories of the entire year. Now, listening to this, it might sound like I'm just here to pile on Kyle Larson. Not true. Yeah, the radio comment was a significant messed up, a self-inflicted wound. The on-track results were by any measure a bitter disappointment for an effort of this magnitude. It was without question a weekend to forget. But let's be absolutely unequivocally clear. Kyle Larson remains one of the most singularly gifted, naturally talented, and versatile race car drivers on the planet. Period. Full stop. What he attempts, often successfully across an incredible spectrum of motorsport disciplines, from sprint cars on dirt to cup cars on asphalt, and now Indy cars, is nothing short of astounding. The man can drive the wheels off a shopping cart if you put a number on it. His car control is the stuff of legends. His ability to adapt and find speed where others can't is almost unparalleled in the modern era. This past weekend, as tough as it was, doesn't erase that God-given talent. It doesn't diminish his past accomplishments or his future potential. But it does serve as a very public, very humbling reminder. A reminder that even the best of the best can have monumentally terrible days. A reminder that motorsport, at its core, is an incredibly unforgiving beast that can bite even its most favored sons. And perhaps most pertinently, it's a reminder that when you are a guest in someone else's house, especially a hallowed ground like Indy, a measure of humility, a dose of grace, and an awareness of the ever-present microphone can go an exceptionally long way. He'll be back. He's too talented, too competitive not to be. He'll win more races, of course, many more. He'll probably even be crazy enough to attempt something like this again someday. And we as fans, we will watch, because that's the magnetic pull of generational talents. They compel us to witness their endeavors, triumphs, and failures alike. But one sincerely hopes that the next time Kyle Larson makes headlines on a stage this grand, it's solely for the breathtaking brilliance he so often displays behind the wheel, and not for the words spoken in the heat of the moment he'd probably rather not have said. A tough weekend for Larson, no two ways about it. A learning experience, perhaps, in more ways than one. We'll see how he bounces back, as true champions always do. And folks, you know, when you talk about Larson, it's just wild to know that we get to be a part of what he's doing. The good days and the bad days, they're really something special. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to move forward in that Coca-Cola 600. Charlotte's crown wasn't going to be his, in addition to Indy. We navigated now the emotional highs and lows of the Indianapolis 500. We've dissected some questionable radio etiquette, but now our compass points firmly towards Concord, North Carolina. It's time to unpack the aftermath of NASCAR's ultimate endurance test, its Ironman competition. The one, the only, the Coca-Cola 600. This isn't just another race on the calendar. It's a 600-mile odyssey, a strategic chess match played out at blistering speeds, a true test of driver stamina, crew resilience, and mechanical fortitude. All neatly packaged into 3 demanding stages that separate the contenders from the pretenders. And for the lion's share of Sunday night, as the sun dipped below the Charlotte horizon and the track lights blazed to his life, this grueling marathon had one name, one number, one dominant force dictating the terms. A young man who just extended his contract with Mr. Rick Hendrick. William Byron, piloting that iconic number 24 Axalta Chevrolet for the powerhouse. Byron wasn't just leading. He was conducting a symphony of speed and precision. We're talking about an astounding 283 laps out of 400 spent out the pointy end of the field. He didn't just win the first 3 stages, he swept them! He vacuumed up playoff points with the efficiency of a seasoned pro. It was kind of the commanding performance that has other crew chiefs throwing their headsets, drivers muttering into their helmets, and fans wondering if anyone else is bothered to show up. He was, for all intents and purposes, operating in a different stratosphere. He kind of looked like King Palou. He was looking utterly poised to cap off a dream weekend after also conquering the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. The double seemed his for the taking. But the Coca-Cola 600, she is a cruel, fickle mistress. She dangles victory in front of you for hundreds of miles, lulls you into false sense of security, and then, just when you think you've got her figured out, she throws a late race haymaker. Perfection is demanded for every single one of those 600 miles, and her knack for late race drama is legendary. Attrition isn't just possibility, it's a guarantee. We saw it bite Kyle Larson, whose already nightmarish day spiraled further. We saw it claim Ryan Blaney, a perennial contender. Daniel Suarez found trouble. Even the living legend, 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson, making his milestone 700th Cup Series start, saw his night end prematurely. This race doesn't just test cars and drivers, it chews them up, spits them out, and asks, who's next? For a significant, thrilling portion of the evening, the primary challenger to Byron's supremacy, the driver who looked most likely to spoil the number 24's party, was Denny Hamlin, and his Joe Gibbs Racing number 11 Toyota. Hamlin was a relentless shadow, a constant thorn in Byron's side. The third stage in particular was a masterclass in wheel-to-wheel combat, with Hamlin and Byron swapping the lead an incredible 9 times. Ferris Bueller. It was like watching a short-track duel play out on a 1.5 mile superspeedway. 2 titans of the sport, giving no quarter, taking no prisoners. Hamlin was hounding Byron, applying relentless pressure, looking every bit like he had the car to beat as the laps clicked down towards the money time. He was patient. He was aggressive. He was everything you'd expect from a veteran gunning for one of those sport's biggest prizes. But then, As so often happens in this unforgiving sport, disaster struck where it's often most painful, on pit road. During the final critical green flag pit stop on lap 348, with the race hanging in the balance, Hamlin's crew made a crucial error. They failed to get the car completely full of fuel. The second can didn't engage properly. It's a split-second mistake with monumental consequences. An unplanned, heartbreaking pit stop on lap 388, a mere 12 laps from the checkered flag, ripped him from contention. Hamlin, ever the professional, lamented, "I would have liked to see it through, but unfortunately just didn't get enough gas." A gut-wrenching, almost unbelievable way to see a dominant run and potential Coke 600 crown evaporate into the Carolina night. With Hamlin's challenge neutralized by that pit road gremlin, the path seemed clear. Surely William Byron, after such a commanding performance, would cruise to a well-deserved victory. The script was written, but then a new protagonist began to emerge from the shadows of the pack, a driver known for his aggressive style, his farming roots, and a tenacious, never-say-die attitude that has both thrilled and occasionally infuriated fans and competitors alike. Ross Chastain, the Melon Man. Chastain's journey to the front of his particular night was nothing short of remarkable, a testament to his skill and his team's resilience. He started dead last, 40th on the grid, in a backup car. Why a backup? Because his primary, number one, Trackhouse Racing Chevrolet had become intimately acquainted with the outside wall during Saturday's practice session, courtesy of a blown tire. His crew, the unsung heroes of every race team, then embarked on an all-night thrash session. As Chastain himself described it, he left the shop around 10 p.m. Saturday night after sitting in the backup car, and they worked until 2:30 a.m. They were back at 5:30 this morning. Some barely slept. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the raw dedication that fuels this sport. Fortunately, they were in Concord, so they got to sleep in their own beds. And as the final laps dwindled, that freshly prepared backup car with Chastain at the helm was on an absolute mission. He was the one who had saved his tires, who had the late race speed, who smelled blood in the water. With Byron trying to manage his own rubber, fending off the immense pressure of leading in the waning moments, Chastain saw an opening. On lap 395, with just 6 laps separating him from either glory or heartbreak, he made his move. It was bold. It was decisive. He dove his Chevrolet low beneath Byron's entering turn 1, a classic Charlotte slide job, and made it stick, clearing Byron off turn 2. It was a breathtaking, hard-fought pass for the lead, the kind that gets fans out of their seats. From there, Chastain didn't look back. He held on to win his first race of the 2025 season, his first ever at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and the 6th of his begrudging Cup Series career. He crossed the finish line a scant 0.6 of a second ahead of visibly dejected Byron. In victory lane, Chastain was pure, unadulterated joy, exclaiming, "Holy cow, we just won the 600. He was quick to credit his team's monumental effort and strategic call in their final stop. "Man, that paid off in the end," he said. "These Goodyear Eagles held on longer because they were a little bit fresher." For William Byron, the disappointment was palpable. Disappointing just to lead that many laps and such a great effort by our whole team, he reflected. "Yeah, I guess I could have anticipated that last run a little better. I ran in dirty air for a long time and heated my tires up. A harsh lesson in race that demands perfection until the last inch." But the night undeniably belonged to Ross Chastain. He started last. He drove with calculated aggression. His team gave him a fighting chance, and when the money was on the line, when the pressure was at its absolute zenith, he seized the moment and made the winning move. It sparks a fascinating conversation. Are we witnessing the continued emergence of a new closer? You know when we called Harvick the closer for years? Maybe Chastain, maybe he's the new closer. On Sunday night, under the lights at Charlotte, Ross Chastain certainly added a very compelling chapter to that argument. It was thrilling, unpredictable. It was a finish of a grueling, unforgettable race, and a potent reminder that in NASCAR, even with stages and cautions it's not over until it's over. You know, in NASCAR, which we talk about a lot on here, one of the biggest criticisms is people want more horsepower. Remember when you would watch a race and you would hear them? Remember qualifying? Friday nights, Charlotte, under the lights. Those cars would go ripping down the backstretch, and it felt like you were there even when you were watching it on television. Horsepower has become a thing of hypocrisy. NASCAR, I must ask, are you even listening? Well, it seems like they might be. All right, folks. Usually I try to keep things somewhat measured around here. I analyze, I critique. We might even get a little passionate. But tonight, the gloves are off. Because I just read something this evening that it has my blood boiling. NASCAR's own Elton Sawyer, a great man. He's a man in a position of power. He's a man who should know better. Had the absolute audacity to say that adding a horsepower back into the Cup Series is on the table. On the table? Are you kidding me? On the table implies it's some novel concept, some brilliant new idea that you guys just cooked up in a marketing meeting. Let me tell you something. Let me tell the powers that be at NASCAR something. More horsepower should have never left the damn table in the first place. This isn't some radical, groundbreaking thought, people. This is about the very soul of what stock car racing was built on. Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? Back to the roots, 1949, the Oldsmobile Rocket V8. Why was it a success? Because it won. The motto wasn't win on Sunday, sell a slightly more fuel-efficient, aerodynamically neutral sedan on Monday. It was win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And how did you win with more horsepower? The Hudson Hornet with its inline six, remember that one? I know you kids that watch cars do. It dominated in the early 1950s because it had that grunt. Then Chrysler rolled out their C355 with 300 horsepower, a monster of its time. And what happened? It won. Chevrolet, Ford, Pontiac, they all got the memo. The FE390 from Ford, the 409 Impalas, Pontiac Super Duty 421s. These weren't just engines, they were declarations of war. A horsepower arms race that had fans on their feet and manufacturers pushing the limits of engineering. They even had to step in and say, okay, boys, maybe 483 cubic inches is a bit much. So in 63, they capped it at 427. That's still 7 liters of pure American thunder. And what did Chrysler do? They unleashed the 426 Hemi in 64 and obliterated everyone. So much so, they had to change the rules again. Then, Ford, bless their hearts, comes out with the 427 cammer, a single overhead cam beast. NASCAR banned it before it could even turn a lap in anger in a cup race, sticking to the cam in block. But even the pushrod Ford FE427 was belting out over 600, sometimes over 650 horsepower with a couple of 4-barrels. That's what these cars were all about, raw, untamed, ground-pounding power. Don't tell me it's just ancient history either. We're not even that far removed from these engines. They were pushing 900. Hell, near 2015, they were closing in on 1,000. Even in 15, they were pushing 750, 800. That felt like proper stock car racing. The cars were a handful. Drivers had to wrestle them. Throttle control meant something. Then what happened? The slow, agonizing castration of the American V8. First, it was the tapered spacer. Then, different horsepower packages for different tracks. We went from 750 to 800 horsepower to a pathetic 550 horsepower on bigger tracks between 2019 and 2021. And now, with its next-gen car, we're sitting at what? 670 horsepower for most tracks, and a truly anemic 510 horsepower for the big speedways. Are we racing stock cars or souped-up minivans? The cars are harder to drive now, they say. It puts it back in the driver's hands, they say. Bull. What it does is create pack racing where no one can pull away, where skill is negated by dirty air, and where the big one is always lurking because no one has the damn horsepower to separate themselves from chaos. And now Elton Sawyer casually mentions that adding horsepower is on the table, like it's a favor to us? Like we should all bow down and say, oh, thank you, NASCAR, for considering giving us back the thing you systematically took away, the thing that made the sport great in the first place. It should have never declined. It shouldn't be on the table. It should be screaming down the backstretch at Talladega. It should be roaring out on turn 4 at Daytona. It should be burning rubber and making drivers earn their damn paychecks at every single track on the schedule. This isn't about reinventing the wheel. This is about remembering who you are. This is about giving the fans what they've been begging for, what made them fall in love with the sport for decades. It's about the spectacle, it's about the noise, it's about the sheer unadulterated thrill of unleashed horsepower. So yeah, put it on the table. And then for the love of God, put it back in the damn cars. And don't act like you're doing us a favor. Act like you're finally fixing a mistake that should never have happened. I about threw my hat, but instead, I think I might tip my hat. My blood pressure is finally going to return to somewhat of a normal level. And just in time. I've got some news that actually makes me want to stand up and applaud, not tear what's left of my heart out. You know, we spend a lot of time on this show talking about what happens on the track. The wins, the losses, the drama, the occasional questionable radio call. But tonight I want to shine a spotlight on some folks who work tirelessly behind the scenes to bring us all that incredible action, to tell the stories and to make us feel like we were right there in the thick of it, even when we're on our couches covered in chip dust. I'm talking about our good friends who cover the NHRA on Fox. These incredibly talented folks, the wizards who capture the thunder of 11,000 horsepower drag racers and beam it into our living rooms, just had themselves a heck of a week. They didn't just win an award, they basically needed a bigger trophy case. The NHRA on Fox crew was just honored with, get this, 7 prestigious Telly Awards. 7! And we're not talking about participation trophies, folks. 4 of these were gold Tellys. That's like winning the Olympics for TV. This isn't new for them either. This latest haul brings their total to an absolutely staggering 50 Telly Awards in the past decade. 50! That's 5-0. 50 Tellys. I think at this point, they're not just winning awards, they're single-handedly keeping the Telly Award engravers in business. Rob Hedrick, NHRA's Senior Director of Production, said something that really resonated. True accomplishment comes from finding what you love and pursuing it passionately. And boy, does their passion shine through. You see it in every perfectly captured launch, every slow motion replay of a tire wrinkling, every heartfelt interview from the top end. So, what got them the gold this year? Well, how about their coverage of the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals from Brainerd? Gold! The Pep Boys NHRA Nationals from Maple Grove, kicking off the countdown, solid gold. And the granddaddy of them all, the 70th annual Toyota NHRA US Nationals from Indy. You guessed it, pure gold. And by the way, it was the Cornwall US Nationals. But it's not just about the races themselves. They also snagged a gold Telly for their incredible Proc Family Pride feature. If you haven't seen it, find it. It's a beautiful piece about Austin Proc, his dad, crew chief extraordinaire Jimmy Proc, and his brother Thomas, all working together on the same John Force Racing funny car team and absolutely dominating their way to a championship. That's storytelling, folks. That's connecting us to the people underneath the fire suit. And Steve Reichheis, NHRA's Vice President of Broadcasting, made a fantastic point when he said, while these awards primarily recognize the broadcast team's efforts, they indirectly honor the racing crews and even tracks as well. And he's absolutely right. Steve's a good guy. The incredible footage, the compelling narratives, they all stem from the dedication and precision of the teams and the tracks that make it all possible. It's a beautiful ecosystem of awesome. They also picked up 3 silver Tellys for their coverage at the Gator Nationals, the Summit Racing Nationals, and a fantastic feature on Top Fuel rookie sensation from last year, Jasmine Salinas. Who is Jasmine Salinas was the name of the feature. They're not just covering races, they're covering stars and telling the human stories that make drag racing so compelling. And get this, even a show on their Fast channel, Talkin' Funny Cars with Buddy Hall, produced by Elin Werner, got in on the action, nabbing a People's Telly Gold Award winner. That's fantastic for Buddy, a driver himself, hosting an interview show. That's kind of cool, inside racing content. The Telly Awards have been around since '79, honoring excellence in video and television across all screens. They got tens of thousands of entries from all over the world. So far, the NHRA on Fox team has been consistent, recognized every year, and it's just phenomenal. So from all of us here at the Late Lap, a massive, heartfelt congratulations to everyone involved in NHRA on Fox. You guys are setting a standard. You bring the sound, the fury, the heart of drag racing to the fans with unparalleled skill and passion. Keep up the amazing work, and maybe invest in some stronger shelving for all of those trophies. You've earned it. And NHRA, I do love you. Coming up next, we have the car of the day, the 2025 McLaren GTS. Seriously, just look at this thing. Settle in, because it's time for what is quite possibly my favorite segment every week. It's the magical moment where we collectively pause, take a deep breath, and allow ourselves to unapologetically drool over some of the most spectacular, most desirable, most mind-bendingly awesome automotive machinery on God's green earth. Yeah, my friends, this is the car of the day. And today, oh today, we have an absolute masterpiece. Prepare your automotive senses, because this one is a certified stunner. Let me formally and with considerable reverence introduce you to the 2025 McLaren GTS. When I say introduce, what I really mean is, please, for the love of all that is fast and beautiful, just feast your eyes on this thing. If this car doesn't make your heart do a little samba, if it doesn't make the tiny hairs on the back of your little neck stand up, well, you might want to check your pulse, because you might be made of stone. This isn't just a car. This is a kinetic sculpture. This is what happens when engineers with PhDs in awesomeness and designers with degrees in automotive poetry decide to collaborate on creating pure, unadulterated, four-wheeled bitchin'. Yeah, I said it. It's a technical term. Look it up. Now, the folks at McLaren, in their typical understated British way, call this a grand tour that redefines everyday supercar driving. Let's be honest, typically, the phrases everyday driving and supercar go together about as much as pineapple on pizza for some people, a hotly debated topic. Or perhaps like me and a sensible early bedtime. It's just, it doesn't compute. Supercars are usually temperamental, impractical, and about as comfortable for a long journey as a sitting on a cactus. But hold your horses, because with the GTS, McLaren might have just cracked that code. They might have actually built a unicorn. The magnificent beast is constructed around a carbon fiber monocell 2T monocoque, which, for those of us who don't speak fluent motorsport engineering, means it's incredibly lightweight, unbelievably rigid, and forms the super strong heart of the car. And it's all been meticulously designed to perfectly balance opulent luxury, genuine long-distance comfort, and the kind of face-melting asphalt shredding power that can rearrange your internal organs. Let's talk about that power, shall we? Because I'm going to be real, that's what gets my heart pumping. Nestled somewhere in that aerodynamically sculpted chassis, probably mid-mounted because that's how true supercars roll, is a 4.0-liter twin-turbocharged V8 engine. This is a V8, and it doesn't purr like a kitten. It roars like a pack of angry lions. It unleashes a colossal 626 horsepower, more than a lot of NASCARs. That's 626 ponies, chomping at the bit, and a tarmac-twisting 465 pound-feet of torque. What does this mean to you in terms you can brag about at the pub, or more likely whisper to yourself in a state of awe? It means this car will catapult you from a standstill to 60 mile an hour in a mere 3.2 seconds. Blink, and you missed it. Keep your foot in it and you'll hit 124 miles an hour. That's a nice round 200 kilometers per hour to our international viewers in just 8.9 seconds. The standing quarter mile dispatched in blistering 11 seconds flat, and it won't stop accelerating. It won't stop putting you back in your beautifully stitched leather seat until it reaches a staggering top speed of 203 miles an hour. My daily commute down I-270 would be significantly more exciting and probably involve a lot more flashing blue lights in the review. But this McLaren GTS isn't just a straight-line missile. Oh no, that would be too simple. McLaren has poured all their Formula One-derived expertise into making this car dance. It's packed with advanced suspension technology, including their proactive damping control system, which reads the road ahead and adjusts the dampers in milliseconds. You get comfort, sport, and track modes, so you can tailor the car's personality to your mood or the nearest available racetrack. And to bring all that fury to a halt, we're talking massive carbon ceramic brakes gripped by 6 piston calipers. They can haul the GTS down to 62 miles an hour to a dead stop less than 100 feet. That's shorter than the length of a basketball court. Think about that. The stopping power is just as breathtaking as the acceleration. And the design, mamma mia, it's a visual symphony. Those signature McLaren dihedral doors that sweep upwards and forwards. Pure automotive theater. It makes every arrival, whether it's at the casino in Monaco or your local grocery store, an event. People will stop. People will stare. Small children will point and wonder. The lines are impossibly sleek, honed to the wind tunnel, aggressively and purposely, yet possessing an undeniable elegance. It's the automotive equivalent of a world-class athlete dressed in a bespoke Savile Row suit. It's a panther coiled and ready to pounce, but with impeccable manners. The front fascia is with its integrated active air intake. That's not just for show. It enhances cooling while cheating the wind. The LED headlights pierce the darkness, and those sculpted rear diffusers, they're not just pretty. They're working overtime to keep this rocket ship glued to the road. Step inside gracefully if you can, and you're greeted by a cabin that's a masterclass in driver-focused luxury. Premium materials abound: soft leathers, alcantara, perhaps some tastefully applied carbon fiber. The sport seats are designed to provide firm, reassuring support during spirited driving, while still maintaining comfort on those longer, grand touring journeys. In front of you, a crystal clear digital instrument cluster offers all the real-time performance data your heart could desire. The central infotainment system seamlessly integrates navigation, connectivity, and your favorite driving anthems. And McLaren has even paid attention to noise insulation techniques, ensuring a refined experience when you want it. Plus, and this is where my everyday supercar really starts to make sense, it has actual usable luggage space. 150 liters in the front compartment, perfect for a weekend bag or two, and a rather generous 420 liters in the rear touring deck under the sleek glass tailgate. See, you can actually take this on a proper road trip. Imagine blasting across countries, devouring miles with your luggage comfortably stowed, all while cocooned in a supercar luxury and performance. Your weekend trips would never be the same again, assuming your definition of a weekend trip involves looking impossibly cool and potentially outrunning the sunset. Now, for the really, really good news, especially if you happen to reside in or around the magnificent Windy City, our sources tell us, and by sources I mean the official press release from McLaren Chicago, that the 2025 McLaren GTS has arrived and is in inventory. This dream machine isn't just a poster on your wall anymore. You can actually go and see it, touch it, gently please, and probably even arrange a test drive of this automotive masterpiece at their dealership located at 645 West Randolph Street, Chicago, Illinois. They're even offering tailored financing options, so you know, if you've recently discovered a forgotten Bitcoin wallet or perhaps a distant wealthy relative has named you in their will, this could be your moment. Seriously, though, the 2025 McLaren GTS looks like an absolute triumph of engineering and design. It's a car that genuinely seems to deliver on the promise of thrilling supercar, performance with enough comfort, practicality, and sheer desirability to make you want to drive it every single day. It's breathtakingly powerful, achingly beautiful, and a shining testament to what happens when a company with the heritage and expertise of McLaren decides to build something truly special. Well, folks, that just about does it for us here on this action-packed edition of Late Lap. It is getting to be a late night. What a Memorial Day weekend of motorsport it was. What a show we've had tonight, trying to unpack it all. We kicked things off with coronation of a new king, King Alex Palou, finally conquering the Indianapolis 500 for his first ever oval win, an absolutely masterful performance that has the entire IndyCar paddock on notice. The man is simply on another planet right now. Then we dove onto the roller coaster that was Kyle Larson's attempt at the double, from some, shall we say, spirited radio commentary at Indy to a premature end to his 500 and then more heartbreak at the Coke 600. It was a brutal day for one of racing's most versatile talents. A tough weekend, no doubt, but as we said, a generational talent like Larson will always bounce back. Speaking of the Coke 600, what a race that turned into. William Byron looked untouchable for 283 laps. Denny Hamlin's hopes went up in a puff of pit road miscalculation, and the Melon Man, Ross Chastain, drove like a man possessed from the back of the pack in a backup car to steal the show and trophy. That's NASCAR endurance racing at its finest. We also got a little fired up about the whole NASCAR horsepower debate. Look, all I'm saying is let the ponies run. It's what the fans want. It's what the sport was built on. Enough said for now. On a much brighter note, I tip my cap and raise my glass to my incredible, talented friends at NHRA on Fox. They have won a stunning 10 Telly Awards, 7 more to add to their overflowing trophy case. And finally, our car of the day, the absolutely stunning 2025 McLaren GTS. If you didn't feel the pulse quicken looking at that piece of automotive art, I don't know what to tell you. A 626 horsepower twin-turbo V8 dream machine that you can apparently drive every day. Santa, if you're listening, my list is very short this year. That was a lot to get through. But that's what we do here on the Late Lap. We cover it all, from the sacred bricks of Indy to the high banks of Charlotte, from the drag strip to the dealer showroom. As I say at the end of every great show, be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Smile. Be happy, and until then, take care. And to our friends in the South, sea amable consigo mismo, sea amable con otros, sonría, sea feliz. Hasta entonces, cuídese. We'll see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, latelap.com. Good night, everybody.